everybody, my name is Kara Brown. I am a urban fantasy author for Otherworld Inc. and Three Faiths Press. I am the author of this wonderful book right here, and we are going to talk about marketing. I did a poll on Twitter because I actually had 3 videos that I was ready to do, but I wasn't sure which one I wanted, so I threw it up there. And originally I was going to do a pep talk for writers, and then at the very last minute more people came in, and now it's about marketing. So I'm really looking forward to doing this, mostly because in the past, if you take a look through the playlist, you'll see that I've talked about how to use social media to market yourselves, but I've never actually sat down and talked about how to market, in a basic capacity. So we'll cover the basics today. Now, if you haven't seen the other videos, you'll hear a little bit of repetitive information that might come in here. Some of the things I'm not going to talk about that I usually talk about in the other videos is kind of like, how to conduct yourselves, don't be fake, when and when not to market your material, all that stuff. I do talk about that on the other social media platform videos, but I really just want to kind of focus on the fundamentals of marketing, why you should do it, what it looks like, and things to avoid. Now, it's been mentioned before by multiple people, not just me, about why it is that authors need to market themselves, and I think I said it in a previous video. In fact, I'm actually pretty convinced I actually did say it, is that nobody's really going to care about your project as much as you're going to care about it. So taking the step to actually go and market yourself and what it is that you are trying to sell, your book, your brand, whatever it is really going to be very important to you, because at the end of the day, and I'm speaking from experience, you can't always count on other people to have your best interests at heart. So you need to be ready to just kind of workhorse that all by yourself. Now, the other reason that a lot of people don't like to accept is the fact that as the publishing industry continues to move forward in the direction that it is, more and more authors are expected to market themselves outside of the effort that the publisher is doing. Now, you'll see a couple of exceptions to this, which are the bestsellers for the publisher, but this is usually the 1% of authors that are out there. In fact, I think it's less right now. But a publisher will go above and beyond to publish a particular author who's making 90% of the income for the publisher, and that's why they do it. In order for them to actually start investing that money into you and your project, you have to prove that you are also a bestseller material. And to be really honest, a lot of people who are not famous always have humble beginnings, and then once stuff starts to take off, that's when they start to see more of the support coming in from the industry itself. I always talk about Jim Butcher as an example. When Jim Butcher's books first came out, his stuff actually didn't really take off until Sci-Fi did a TV show series basically, or based on his books, and then his sales started to rocket. Next thing you know, his stuff is getting promoted everywhere. He's going to places, he's getting, all that jazz. So if you're kind of frustrated that you're not getting the A-class support right away, welcome to the club. Now, the marketing advice that I would like to actually share with you is it's typical. You're going to find a lot of people who talk about it. I'm going to try and aim this towards the writing industry in general, but a lot of these principles are based in business and business theory and marketing theory and all that stuff. So we will start with your product. So what is it that you are exactly trying to sell to people? What kind of book is it? Where are you going to be able to find this book? What is the 1 to 2 sentence summary of your book? You definitely want to do that last one, because that 1 to 2 sentence summary is also going to be your elevator pitch, which when you are out there and mingling face to face with people, you're going to need, because they don't want to hear the 5 long page description of your book. They just kind of want the short and sweet of it and go from there. It's also something that you're going to need when you start writing your query letters. If you're going the traditional route, being able to very tightly summarize your book shows that you are in control of your writing and in control of the story, and that you are able to convey all the themes in a very easy to conduct manner, and that's definitely something that you want people to know you for. So again, when you're looking at your massive manuscript and going, how do I summarize this in 1 to 2 sentences? It may seem very intimidating at first, but you'll get to it. So as an example for my book, if I had to do a 1 to 2 sentence summary of my book, my story is about a monster who's learning how to make friends and find love without getting shot at. Now, does that tell the entire story? No, but it definitely has enough intrigue to make people probably want to take the book, flip it over, read the back. You get the gist. Now, the next thing to talk about is going to be your audience. Who are you trying to get to buy your book? And I'm going to be really frank with you. Every time I ask this question at a writing group or a seminar or any kind of workshop that I go to, I'm like, hey, who's the target audience for your book? I typically hear it's oh, it's for everybody. So newsflash, your book is not for everybody. Even if you think it is, there are going to be people who just are not going to like the material, and you can't make everybody happy. And it's just long rant short, you need to know you need to pick 3 people inside your head who you want to be holding your book, and then you need to figure out a little bit more about those people. So for example, the very first person that I think of when I'm trying to write my book is actually my husband. It's not because I love him or because I want him to approve of my writing. It's because he's a very hard to please reader. He likes certain things in his story, so in my brain, if I can make him happy, I can make a lot more other people happy. After that, my target audience are individuals 25 and older who enjoy movies and video games, and they also enjoy sci-fi. These are also readers of Ilona Andrews, Jim Butcher, and people who like a modern day setting for Lord of the Rings. So that's my target audience, which it's a little broad, but at the same time, it's not everybody. I know exactly who it is that I want to put my book to. So figure out who those 3 people are, and then don't make them all the same person. That range I gave you was pretty big. I said 25 and older, so in one part of my brain, I'm gonna think about people who are actually in their 20s. I will either focus on a gender or I won't, and then I'll think about somebody in their 30s, and then I'll also think about somebody in the gaming geek community as well, because this is the kind of stuff that in my opinion, I think that they would like. So when I'm trying to make a marketing campaign and I'm trying to get the word of my book out there, I'm going to make 3 different campaign themes in order to kind of hit that target audience. So, and that's kind of what you need to do too. It's also really important to find out what that target audience likes as well. In a lot of query letters that I have read, for both as examples and as the stuff that's coming in through the publisher, a lot of people will say fans of this and that are also going to enjoy this book as well. And that's something that you're only going to really figure out if you know who those fans of those books are. So this is going to involve the big R word I always say, which is research. You got to research, you got to know who your demographics are, you got to know what they like, got to put your finger on that pulse, you got to know who these people are. And after you figure out who these people are, you need to figure out where they are. You need to figure out where you can find them the most. Are they in coffee shops? Are they in schools? Are these people who will typically go to the library over buying the book in the store? Are these people mostly like, hermits, and they do all their online engagement on the internet, aka possibly other writers? So you need to kind of figure out where you're going to find these people at, and then how you're going to reach them through that platform. Because the way that you market in different areas and venues is going to differ. So the way that I would market my book here on YouTube is not exactly how I'm going to market it on Twitter or Instagram, and it's definitely not how I'm going to present it at a panel. I don't know about the panel yet, I haven't gone to one, but when I do, I'll let y'all know. But you're not going to market things the same across the board. You're going to do it a little bit differently because the way that the platform has engagement and the way that it presents information is different, and you need to taper everything to match those mediums. Now, the next question involving your audience is it's kind of a secret, kind of not a secret. A lot of people talk about it, but they don't really kind of like dive into why it's super important. But come here. Shh, come here. How do you get people to talk about your book? Yeah, I know, not much of a secret, but people really underestimate the power of word of mouth. Like, here's a story. My husband and I were out in Costco and we were looking at some cleaner, and I was like, I don't know which one I want because the last one that we had doesn't work and we need to have something else. And so we're sitting there looking at cleaners and having this discussion, and the lady next to me heard us talking about it, and she came over and said, I use this one because it's really good, it cleans everything, and it doesn't give my skin rash, and I have sensitive skin. And I was like, okay, cool. And I took that one that she recommended to me. She's a total stranger, I don't know her, she could use this stuff to like clean her basement after murdering people for all I know, but she came over and she talked to me about it and said it was good, and I took it for what it was. I actually still have that cleaner, it works really well. But besides the point, the power of word of mouth, of somebody coming and recommending something to another person, has a lot more impact than an ad flashing in your face. Here's a different example, more pertaining to writers. I was tracking my Kindle sales like the OCD person that I am, and I noticed I had a spike on a certain day. And I was very puzzled by this spike because I didn't remember doing a campaign for it. I didn't remember talking about it. I went and checked all my buffer stuff to see if I had put something out, and I just couldn't figure it out. And then later I got a message from my friend who was over at a con standing in a Jim Butcher line, and she was talking about my book with all the people that were in the line, and while they were in the line they went and bought my book. Same thing, word of mouth. She would basically say it's a good stuff, you should get it, try it out, look at it. And these people, while in line to go talk to a different author who I absolutely love, were reading my book, and I was just like, that's so cool. But again, that's a word of mouth thing. When you have other people talking about your product and what it is that you're trying to sell and endorsing it, they are more likely to make that purchase. So again, Probably the most important thing out of all of the stuff that I'm talking about when it comes to marketing is this question: how do you get people to talk about your stuff? How do you get them to do that? So this last question is one that people usually ask first, but I'm putting it here kind of at the bottom of the things that you need to ask yourself when it comes to marketing, because in terms of order of importance, this is the one that I usually consider last, which take that for what it is. But what is your budget for marketing? What is it that you are willing to invest into this product that you are trying to produce and give to other people? Now, I want to be honest when I say that, because when I'm talking about budgeting, I'm not just talking about like Facebook ads or Instagram ads. I'm talking about how much are you willing to pay for your website? How much are you willing to pay for actually creating your product? So the editor, the cover designer, the interior formatter, how much are you willing to pay for those things? And then of course there are the ads. So again, how much are you willing to invest? Because marketing doesn't just happen overnight, and it doesn't just happen because it's a miracle thing. It happens because there's an investment, and the investment that you have in your product, your book, whatever, that's going to be detriment to everything that you are trying to do when it comes to trying to get your book in somebody else's hands. So I was about to move into the do's and don'ts, but then I remembered that there is another marketing thing to kind of cover in regards to your product that sometimes it goes with books and sometimes it doesn't. It definitely goes with like company brands and products that they are trying to sell. But a lot of times when people are trying to sell something, there's a story behind it. And I'll be honest with you, about 80% of everything that is bought isn't bought because it's amazing. It's bought because there's a story behind it. That's why when you read stuff, it's kind of like two guys started in a basement with an idea, right? So in some cases you can probably talk about the story behind what it is that, made you start working on this craft in order to kind of get like a reader's attention. But I see that a lot more with items like board games and coffee machines. Like I'm like thinking about Kickstarters right now. But they do a lot of that with stuff that you can have. I don't always see that with books so much because the book itself is a story. So I mean, like, I do know that there is one author who made a self-help book, and they started the self-help book by talking about their life before they started writing, which I mean is a good hook, and it's a good emotional attachment to everything that happens later on in what they're talking about. So that's one way that you can kind of use that, but I mean, if you're writing actual fiction, probably not so much. So I mean, that last one, do what you want with that. So the do's and don'ts of marketing are pretty simple, but really hard to do, especially if you're an introvert. So the very first thing that you need to do when you're marketing is you need to advocate for yourself. I'm very bad about this. Usually when I go and I meet people for the first time, I don't like to talk about like, hi, I'm an author and I wrote this book. Would you like to buy it? I don't always do that. I kind of start with kind of like, hi, it's nice to meet you. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And then we kind of exchange, find something that we have in common. And typically it's one of my friends that kind of comes out and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, she's got this book. And they're like, oh, you write too? And I'm like, yeah, I do that. I'm a little awkward right now. Here are all my links and my business cards and all this other stuff. You have to be ready to advocate for yourself and your product because, again, it goes back to like, if you don't do it, you can't expect other people to do it. So you have to have your own best interest at heart on that. Now, this next one, I could probably do a huge video about this. But when you are doing this endeavor, you need to surround yourself with people who are going to be supportive of what you are doing. I'm going to be really frank with you. Writing by yourself all the time is a very hard and very lonely process. Marketing is very overwhelming. And just knowing that you have people who are there to like hold your hand or support you, even if it's just a simple like retweeting of something that you're trying to share with other people, just small things like that are going to help you out a lot. And I'll be honest with you, there are a lot of people out there who are looking to take from each other, and that can burn a lot of trust and a lot of faith that people have in others around them. But that's why it's really important that as you go into this and you are trying to protect yourselves and you're trying to market your book and everything, that you surround yourself with people who literally have your back, who are going to be supportive, who are going to be there for you. And they're basically, when you're like, I think I should quit writing, they're just going to put the pencil back in your hand and say like, you need to keep going. The third thing that you need to be ready to do when it comes to marketing your book, yourself, and anything else that you're trying to do is that you need to be ready to answer questions. People are going to ask questions about your book, about the themes in your book. They're going to ask questions about you. Some of them may be really invasive. Some of them may be really rude. But you need to be ready to answer them, and you need to be prepared to kind of give I don't want to say appropriate responses, but definitely kind of like unemotional responses. And I'm saying that as somebody who, since my book came out, I've had people ask me very frank and kind of like rude questions about being a writer in itself, which I could totally do another video about. And I knew that these questions were going to come because I have friends who are also writers and published writers and run publishers, and so they were kind of telling me about the encounters that they have. And I'll be honest, a lot of times when people are coming and asking these questions to you, they just don't know. They're just ignorant about everything that's involved with the process and what it is that you're trying to do. So just brace yourself. The questions are coming. Some will be easy to answer, some won't be. So just get ready. They're coming, man. The last thing when it comes to the things that you need to do when it comes to marketing is that you need to be flexible. The entire process is going to be a huge learning curve, especially if you've never done it before, either for yourself or a company or anything. You are going to quickly learn about what works and what doesn't work. So for example, last year, if you told me that I was going to get a lot of my readers actually on YouTube, I would have been like, no, that's not a thing. My readers aren't on YouTube. Surprise, my readers are on YouTube. But again, you need to be flexible, and in that flexibility, you need to be ready to change things. So originally, when I started my marketing plan, I was hitting Twitter and I was hitting Instagram pretty hard, and then I found out that I was getting a lot more traction on YouTube, so I kind of switched my game up. And then I started thinking about different ways to present that content and ways to engage, so on and so forth. So things happen, stuff is going to change, you need to change with it. And more than likely, things are going to keep changing. And part of what I'm trying to say in all this is that in the constant need to be flexible, you also need to be ready to learn new things in order to adapt to the changes that are coming. So case in point, here on YouTube, they got rid of the streaming thing. We were all frantically trying to find somewhere to go and use for our new streaming for the live writing sprints. And we ended up going and finding different things, but we had to learn how to use those things too. And like, it's frustrating in the beginning, but once you start learning and you kind of adapt to what's going on, it's a lot easier. And that's just a constant theme when it comes to marketing yourself. Like, the market changes, people change, what they want, how they want to present it, that's always going to change. You need to get ready to ride that wave. So I have two things really that you should not do when you're trying to market yourself or your book or anything else like that. There's a lot more. I'm going to be really honest. There's just so many things that you should not do, and a lot of it varies on who you are, who you're talking to, what you're trying to sell. But I want to focus on big two ones that I'm seeing right now, just because these are the ones I'm seeing very often in mainstream media, and I don't want new people seeing this and thinking that it is the norm. So let's start with the first one, which is don't insult your audience. If you have been kind of watching the way that movie marketing is going in this last year, there's been a lot of, if you don't like it, you're a troll. If you don't like this movie, you're a misogynist. And the last thing that you really want to do as an author is you want to insult potential buyers. So by coming out and saying, like, if you don't like this movie, you're a misogynist, you're basically insinuating that if somebody watches the movie and they say, well, I don't like it, people are gonna be like, oh, well, then you must be a misogynist. You don't want to create that atmosphere. And the reason that the movie industry can get away with doing that for the most part is because they have the budget for the profit losses that they would possibly incur from trying this insane marketing tactic. And as authors, we don't. In fact, more than likely, we still haven't bought our Lamborghinis yet. We are still trying to figure out how many packs of ramen that we can buy per month right now. So we don't really have the ability to kind of come out to people and be like, well, if you don't like my book, you're just an asshole. Don't do that. Just stick with the method that works, which is if you like these works, you will like this one too. Just stick with it, all right? Advice from Caro to you. The last one that I have on my little list over here of things that you should not do when you're marketing is do not use every marketing technique and platform under the sun. Earlier when I said that you have to be flexible, this involves also figuring out what's going to work for you and what's not going to work for you. Originally when I started marketing, I thought I was going to find the majority of my followers on Instagram, and I ended up finding more of them on YouTube. But I didn't just go out and start trying all the other things. Like, I didn't start going and marketing myself on TikTok or Snapchat. I didn't go on Reddit. Somebody told me to go on Reddit, and I was like, I've already got too much to do. I can't do all that and manage Reddit at the same time. So don't do everything. You're going to come out, you're going to try a bunch of different platforms, you're going to try some techniques, you're going to try different methodologies, and you're going to figure out what works for you and stick with that. All right, somebody may come and say, hey, this is the best thing ever, it works so well, blah 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 blah, but if you're looking at it and you're like, I can see that working for you, but it's not going to work for me, don't feel pressured to try it unless you really want to. All right, that's serious advice. I've seen some people who try to do everything. They try to do everything. They try to do all the platforms. They try to do all the techniques. They try to do everything, and within 3 weeks they're burned out because it's just so much demand. So find out what works for you. Find out what you like doing. Stick with it. So that is the down and dirty about you and marketing and kind of what it involves. It can be really overwhelming in the beginning, especially if you're not used to having to talk about yourself and sell yourself and all that stuff. It does take time, it does take practice. It's not easy in the very beginning, but once you get into the habit of doing it, it's a lot easier. As I mentioned earlier, there are definitely some points that I kind of covered where I could have dived into a lot more detail. My question for you, wonderful viewer, is if you think that there is something involving marketing that you need to have a deeper understanding and a more lengthy explanation on, leave a comment down below for me. Feel free to. Let me know what you need to understand, what you need to be clarified, what you are struggling to adapt to. Send that my way. I will definitely make another video about that, just for that way it's out there for both you and anybody else who might have a concern, because as a prior teacher, I used to tell all my students, like, if you don't ask the question, the 4 other people who have the same question are not going to know the answer. So that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it informative. If you know somebody who you think needs to see this video, please feel free to send it their way. If you thought that this video was very informative and you got a lot out of it, hit the like button, just so that way I know that I'm doing my due diligence and making sure that everybody has a deep understanding of these topics. If you have not already purchased a copy of Queens and Swords of Silence, there is a link down below. You can get the Kindle, you can get the paperback, whatever works for you. As of Monday, my book is going to be a whole month old. Yay! I feel like I need to get like one of like those baby blanket things where you can like move the little circles around. If you are not sure if you want to make the purchase or not, I actually have 2 abilities for you to kind of test the waters and see if you like it. Obviously there is the preview of the book that you can read and see if you want to read that. I've also got a link to my newsletter down below where you get access to a free short story, so that way you can read it, see if you like my writing style, take that risk, it's up to you. My feelings won't be hurt if you unsubscribe from the mailing list. I'll just remember forever. But in all seriousness, I just want to give you guys the opportunity to see if it's something that you want to buy and just give you as much information as I can without actually giving you the book for free. So there's that. Anyway, we're done. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all next week, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Okay, dog tax, guys. Dog tax. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.